Well, a new cookbook showcases the pepper of St. Augustine, celebrating the fiery yellow fruit that is central to so much Minorcan cooking. Here to tell us about it, we're joined by Magen Altice, the executive director of the St. Augustine Historical Society. Megan, good morning.
Good morning.
We're also joined by Nicole Diehm, the Historical Society's head librarian and curator. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you for having us.
Well, I'm thrilled to talk to you. So, the datil pepper is unique to St. Johns County, which I think maybe people don't realize, but it has a history that is very much interwoven with Minorcan culture, Minorcan heritage. This cookbook, in fact, is woven through with names that will be familiar to a lot of people in St. Johns County. You've got the Manucys and the Pacettis and the Masters and the Coleys. So, these are people that were early settlers of St. Augustine. Tell us a little bit about the history of the Minorcan people.
Sure. Well, next year actually is a big anniversary. It marks the 250th of the Minorcans coming up from New Smyrna Beach to settle in St. Augustine. So you'll notice the book is 1777 as a nod to that year. But they came during the British period here in Florida. They were brought over by Dr. Andrew Turnbull. And to work some plantations down in New Smyrna in 1768. And then in 1777, they were released from their indentured servitude and they came up to St. Augustine and settled there. And they have had a tremendous impact on the culture of St. Augustine ever since.
They originate in Minorca, the island of Minorca. Is that generally where they come from?
Minorca, Corsica, in Italy. He thought that they had a similar climate to New Smyrna, so that was what drove that idea to bring them over to work indigo plantation.
Yeah, and so they were relatively not treated super well at this New Smyrna plantation, and so released from their indentured servitude. I sort of heard that they, in some ways, maybe left or escaped that servitude to get away from these really harsh and often fatal conditions there.
Correct.
Yep. The more that I've been learning about it, I've been learning a little bit about the British period. And Andrew Turnbull was a surgeon. He was not a business person. He had never started a town before. And he said, oh, these people, like that guy knows how to farm and that person knows how to build a house. I'll just let them go do it. And it just turned into a debacle. Also, he brought way more people than he had supplies for. So he just automatically assumed everybody would just like start up and be able to do things. But the environment is very different here than the Mediterranean. So obviously, things went south, and then the Minorcans did walk up to St. Augustine during Governor Tonan's, well, he was governor of St. Augustine.
Yeah.
So he allowed them in. They lived north of the city, and personally, I think Tonan did it because he did not like Andrew Turnbull. They had a lot of fights, and I think it was a little jab at him to say, okay, yeah, you guys can come stay here and, I'll save you from Turnbull.
So the Minorcan people very often associated, as in this cookbook, with the datil pepper. So did they bring the datil pepper? Why are they so associated with this? And why is it that it's just in St. Augustine and St. Johns County? I mean, it really is this very limited area pepper.
It is. It's kind of a controversial topic. Where did it originate? But I think modern day consensus is that it started off in South America and came up through the Caribbean islands and was likely here well before there were any European encounters. It was already in the Caribbean. And, as Charles Tingley puts in the introduction, some Minorcans would claim it came over with them in 1768, but we don't have any proof that that plant existed in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, Charles Tingley, a voice of St. Augustine
Correct.
history for sure. So why a cookbook devoted to this pepper? Why is it getting this attention and focus?
So we were actually approached by it by a citizen who has asked to remain anonymous. She has been gathering the recipes over the years. She knows a lot of the families, and she approached us and said, hey, I have all of this. I think we should do a cookbook. And she approached Megan, and Megan thought it was a great idea. And a couple years ago, Charles and I had kind of slam-bammed a different cookbook. It was called Shrimply Delightful, and we took recipes from the Great Depression, shrimping, and they were trying to revitalize it, and they had this contest. So we had a volunteer transcribe all of those recipes for us, and then we created something for over the holidays, make a nice little stocking stuffer. And when we were approached for this, we said, yeah, well, we'd love to have this in our coffers. So she knew Gayle Prevatt is the artist who did the work, and they gave me everything, and we put it together.
And these are beautiful illustrations throughout the cookbook. And the cookbook has a lot of variations on a theme. As we noticed, a lot of the names are familiar. They're
Mhm.
from people's own kitchen cookbooks that are family recipes that have been handed down. But for instance, there are two kinds of something called bottled hell, which is
Mhm.
a nod to just how spicy this pepper is. It's really up in the kind of habanero
Correct.
range in terms of its intensity, but it has a different flavor. It's sort of a tangy, different taste to it. And so the bottled hell, describe to us a little bit about what that is and how that became a staple, these hot sauces.
The bottled hell.
Yeah.
Well, as like we were talking about, how did it get here? But we do know that by the early 1900s, especially the 1930s, 1940s, Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings has the Cross Creek Cookery, her cookbook that she puts out, to accompany her Cross Creek memoir, and she's talking about this, and she's definitely saying that this came with the Minorcans, so that was kind of her. Lean on it.
Mhm.
But we are, by the early 1900s, it's quite the staple in all of the Minorcan houses and all of their cookbooks and their recipes. And today I feel like that is, you got your salt, your pepper, and your datil pepper. I mean, it's a big part of their
There's a big part of this story too that I understand is connected to the guy that created Barnacle Bills, Christopher Ray, who had started this Daddle Do It business with the former mayor, Eddie Musalem, who they really created this product and then it took off enormously to the point that it was being sold on QVC. And that was sort of the heyday of daddle recognition, I guess, in the area.
Right, and included in the cookbook, we have a list of various, datil pepper places that you can purchase these products from. But you're right, the commercial success that came out of that was pretty impressive.
And so this bottled hell is sort of I guess a puree kind of the peppers and vinegar and a little bit of ketchup. Is that kind of the primary?
Right.
Yeah, then that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And depending from what I understand, I have not had the hot sauce directly myself. I'm a baby.
Okay.
So there's only so much spicy I can do. I know what restaurants around town have the type of daddle that I can handle.
Mhm.
But from what I understand, if you add some of the seeds, it makes it even hotter.
Yeah.
So that's probably where the hell is coming in.
There are a great number. I mean, of course, there are multiple Minorcan clam chowders in this cookbook. I think there's maybe upwards of 5. There's a whole chapter devoted to Perlos. We talked about 12 kinds, from shrimp to black olive to sausage. So it's in all kinds of things. But there's also these nods to local culture, local cuisine, some recipes calling for Hastings cabbage or St. Augustine
Mhm.
sweet onion. And so very much kind of steeped in the local culinary, and shrimp, a big one.
Absolutely. And some of them, for example, there's a clam chowder that used to be sold at the Dolphin Restaurant at Marineland. There's some of the Perla recipes that have been served at the famous women's exchange luncheons. So we've got some really great historic recipes in
And then
there.
some, I mean, that you couldn't find anywhere else, daddle pepper mullet and dumplings, which I think
Right.
is just a classic. And then something called the redneck daddle sundae, which is basically daddle
Yes.
pepper jelly and grits.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of the sweets were a little questionable. And also, I opened up to page 15, which has Lois Rutherford's peanut butter surprise. And it's pickled daddle peppers seeded and halved, peanut butter and crackers. And pretty much you have it, put some peanut butter, put it on a cracker, and eat it.
That's the
And
surprise, I guess.
I'm waiting for someone to try that for me to see
Yeah.
how that goes.
So I mean, there used to be a daddle pepper festival in St. Johns County. There is a proclamation that the county commissioners made in tribute to the daddle pepper. Has it reached its kind of point of supremacy? Is there more to see developed with the datil pepper? Do you think this cookbook is going to help people in the area revisit or appreciate it?
I feel like every time we talk to people, they get very excited. From what I understand, from the editor who helped us put it together, there's nothing else like this out there. There might be some datil recipes in other cookbooks, but there has never been one that's specifically for the datil pepper. And I was at Women's Exchange yesterday, and actually, the family of Reddy Cox is part of the Women's Exchange. And I mentioned to them that we have some of his recipes in here. And she said, okay, tomorrow I'm going to go to the shop and buy some.
Oh,
So I think getting the word out, it's a little bit of nostalgia. It's a little bit of there's something new that people are going to learn, different recipes that they didn't think of, like putting datil pepper jelly on ice cream, um,
right.
or on peppers and peanut butter. And I think it's something really special, that it's made locally. It's made from the people who created it. It's from people who lived here. It's an artist who lived here. It was presented by a citizen and made by the local historical society.
And-
So it's very ingrained in the community.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so if people are interested in getting it, is it something that you're selling through the Historical Society? Where is it generally available?
Yep, it is available at our museum shop if people want to physically come to the Oldest House Museum complex on 14 St. Francis Street in St. Augustine. You can also buy it on our online store. If you go to our homepage, scroll down, there's the online store at the bottom, and they just have to search datil. It'll pop right up.
And so in terms of the community of Minorcans, how I know that it's fairly hot off the presses, but how has it been received so far? What are you hearing from people that either contributed to the book or helped, or just are from that community or the larger community of St. Augustine?
I think there's a lot of excitement, and especially, with the Minorcan community getting revved up for that 250th next year. I think that all eyes will be on the Minorcan community for the year, and so hopefully it will kind of reinvigorate the excitement about the datil pepper.
It'll probably be a part of that. Are there plans that you're aware of in terms of for that major 250th? Are they starting to put together some events for the city?
Oh yes, there's a Minorcan Cultural Society that's hard at work, and I know for the Historical Society we'll do a number of talks and events.
And we're also planning an exhibit in our map gallery space with the local Minorcans. We're asking for them to donate heirlooms so we can loan and sort of see, like, over time, what are things that were very special to them. So we're working with the groups to start gathering that and, kind of putting that together.
Yeah, a history that becomes more important as the area changes so much. But it is great to talk to you, Magen Altice, Nicole Diehm. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you so much for having us.